Hey everyone, Mucklick here, and it was just announced moments ago that there is going to be a PvP balance update included in tomorrow's patch. Now, I am recording this on 4/5/21, so tomorrow is when we are anticipating that they're going to be patching in the Super Adventure Box for the year, and they are adding in some PvP stuff on top of that. So, without further ado, here are your PvP patch notes for 4.6. That they have released. This is written by Cal Cohen, aka CMC. Hey everyone, tomorrow's release will include a few PvP balance changes, some of which we discussed in our post 2 weeks ago. That is in reference to the patch where they nerfed Burn Guardians, Support Guardians, Burn Dragon Hunters, Minion Mancers, Ventari Revenants, Shiro Renegades, Power Heralds, and a few other things. That is what he's referencing. I'll have a link to it in the description below if you missed that. We're back again to provide some context behind these upcoming changes. We're still evaluating the impact of the previous PvP balance update, but at the end of this post, we'll talk about a few areas we're keeping an eye on for future updates. 4.6 changes to build items and support heals. First of all, before I even continue, I want to give them props for having the communication being so open. They've had lulls of time before where they've been kind of radio silent, and I love seeing so much back and forth from them in such a short period of time. Okay, continuing. 4.6 changes to build items and support heals. Removed Minder Amulet from the PvP build panel. Removed Martial Amulet from the PvP build panel. Those two amulets are the only two that have 1,000 healing power on them. That means the only amulets with healing power on them after this change will be ones that have 500. Added Sigil of Transference to the PvP panel. In PvP, this sigil grants a 20% increase in outgoing healing effectiveness. Elemental Bastion Tempest increased heal scaling from 0.4125 to 0.55 in PvP only. Selfless Daring on Guardian increased heal scaling from 0.6 to 0.9, that is a 50% increase. Call of Valor Warrior increased barrier attribute scaling from 0.5 to 0.82 in PvP. So, to super summarize, they are concerned that it's getting too bunkery, and I agree with that. It definitely is. The monthly AT backed that up. The top ranks right now back that up. So I don't know if I agree that this is the best way to go about fixing that problem, but it is true, and I do agree that it is a problem. So what they're doing is they are removing the two amulets that give 1,000 healing power, leaving only the 500s, but you can take a sigil on your weapon to increase outgoing healing. So the healer can still heal other people quite well, is the hope, especially combined with these buffs right here, but they can't keep themselves up nearly as long as before. So it might result in, like, a healer might still be worth bringing, but your teammates will need to learn to protect that healer because they can't keep themselves alive. They're not going to be immortal running around. As previously discussed, we removed Minder and Martial Amulets from PvP and added Sigil of Transference to compensate for the reduction of allied healing to support builds. While Martial is currently overshadowed by Minder and not as much of a problem, we wanted Transference to be powerful, and we were concerned with how high it could push outgoing healing in combination with a 1,000 healing power amulet for builds that are less reliant on the extra health that Minder provides. Removing Minder Amulet serves two purposes. It forces high sustain side node builds into more aggressive amulets, and reduces the self-sustain of support builds. Minder Amulet side noders are much more prone to stalemating fights and generally slowing down the pace of the game. Similarly, by reducing the self-sustain of support builds, we hope to see an increase in kill potential in fights and a general increase to overall pace. We still want support builds to be able to support their allies well, and targeting their self-sustain lets us keep a lot of the other skills at the same power level. Our goal with Sigil of Transference is to keep support healing to allies around the same level that it currently is with Minder. Elemental Bastion, Selfless Daring, Call of Valor stood out as three sources primarily used by support builds that are most heavily impacted by the removal of Minder, and so we've preemptively bumped up the healing coefficient. Okay, I immediately need to cut in here. So what they're saying is, we took away 500 healing power. Assuming you choose to go from a 1,000 healing power amulet down to a 500 one. So that but then you take the sigil, so you lose a sigil, and you get back 20% outgoing healing. And then if you're a Tempest and you have this trait, a Guardian with this trait, or a Warrior with this trait, that, combined with the Sigil, you recover most of the healing to others that you had before you lost 500 healing power. You just don't have as much on yourself because the Sigil doesn't work on yourself. These aren't the only healers. Tempest, Guardian, and a Warrior? Like, I say this in like every PvP patch note. It's like Druid exists. That's one thing. Scourge, I mean, not that Scourge needs a freaking buff, but, you know, we're going to get to that in just a minute. But, you know, Scourge is like a massive support right now as well. But, you know, these aren't the only healers. So, anyway, just had to say that. We want support builds to be able to support their allies well, and targeting their self-sustain let us keep a lot of the other skills at the same power level. Our goal with Sigil of Transference is to keep support healing to allies around the same local areas with Minder, Elemental Badge, blah 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 blah, as the three sources most heavily impacted by the removal of Minder, and so we preemptively bumped up the healing coefficients to bring their allied healing with Avatar and Sigil of Transference closer to where it is currently. Looking over other allied heals, some sources will heal for a bit more than they currently do with Minder, and some will heal for a bit less, but overall output should be similar. We'll keep a close eye on healing values as the meta develops without Minder, and we will make further adjustments as necessary. 4-6 changes to Scourge. Sand Cascade, reduced barrier attribute scaling from 1.04 to 0.77, that's about a quarter decrease. Sand Flare, reduced barrier attribute scaling from 0.75 to 0.45, that is around a third decrease. Desert Empowerment, reduced barrier attribute scaling from 0.77 to 0.62 in PvP only. Harbinger Shroud, reduced barrier attribute scaling on detonation from 2.0 to 1.65. They're taking away not quite a quarter of it. Transfusion, reduced the pulse heal scaling from 0.1 to 0.08 in PvP only when the Scourge specialization is equipped. Scourge has continued to show strong results in both ranked play and automated tournaments, providing strong defense to itself and allies through barrier generation and healing, while also creating a good amount of pressure through boon removal and damage. While Scourge Sustain is affected by the removal of Minder Amulet, given the current power level of the build, we were concerned that the move to Avatar Amulet alone wouldn't be enough to bring it in line. I could understand the concern. So we've made additional shaves to the healing power coefficients of some of Scourge's barrier generation and transfusion. Feed from Corruption is the most notable omission from this list. It is a very powerful trait, granting Scourge access to a wide range of boons in potentially large quantities to enhance both its defensive and offensive potential. We are currently considering reducing some of the stronger boon applications in a further update, but we want to see how the removal of Minder and the reductions to healing and barrier coefficients play out first. And for those that don't know, Feed from Corruption is a Grandmaster trait line for the Scourge, and it reads that when you remove or corrupt a boon from an enemy, you get that boon. Looking ahead, we'll be evaluating the impact of tomorrow's changes in addition to the recent March update on the side node meta and support builds. We still want dedicated support builds to be a viable option, and we'll be paying close attention to how the meta develops following the removal of Minder and the addition of Transference. Sigil of Transference has the potential to enable stronger healing from non-support builds that can afford to run Avatar or Sage Amulet and may end up being too powerful for an individual Sigil. We're not opposed to enabling this type of build, but if they end up pushing dedicated supports completely out of the meta, then we may reduce the outgoing healing granted by Transference and roll more outgoing healing into support traits or support runes to create a greater trade-off for non-supports. So basically what they're worried about is if you've got a Guardian or a Tempest or a Druid or whatever that is not even running a healing power skill at all, or that is not even running a healing power amulet at all, and they take this Sigil just for the 20% outgoing healing, would that make them scary? And that's what they want to keep an eye on. We've also considered the possibility that moving support builds from Minder to Avatar Amulet could end up making them too squishy due to the reduction in self-healing. This is something that we'll evaluate on a case-by-case basis, but we're prepared to make further adjustments as necessary to find the right balance between squishiness and support power. This could involve buffs to more selfish survivability skills, or possibly further increasing outgoing support potential to justify the level of vulnerability. That's all we have for today. Thanks for reading, and we'll see you in the mists. This is Systems Team. And yeah, and then right away, someone's saying, what about Heal Scrapper? Not that I see a lot of those in PvP. Did you forget Druid? What about Druid? Yeah, it's... right away, I was like, okay, so basically they're just saying these are the only supports we're concerned with right now, which is a real bummer. You know, not every single specialization needs to be viable for every single game mode. I get that. But of course, as a Druid main, that does make me super sad, because I do enjoy playing it. I wish it would work in PvP, but right now it's garbage tier. As a support in PvP, it's like the only Druids people want are essentially, you know, sit on a side note type of thing. Anyway, those are the changes that you should expect, and hopefully you will not be surprised by tomorrow. Again, tomorrow will be 4.6, which is expected to be the same patch that will activate the Super Adventure box. So this has been your PvP patch notes. If you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns about this, or anything that I left out, feel free to put them in the comments down below to help other people and raise the visibility of it. And hopefully I will be back soon with a quick guide to the Super Adventure box. But for now, see you in the mists.